So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friends. Once again, welcome to our Facebook Live. It's been almost 2 months since our last Facebook Live, and I was missing those lovely lives with our wonderful guests. And what a way to start our second lap of Facebook Live. Our today guest is a person who is by profession a chartered accountant, a runner, a cyclist, a photographer, and above all, a mountaineer and a great explorer. 36 peak climb, and he took 27 mountaineering expedition, out of which 22 has first ascent. The expedition to Rasa Kangri in 2040 was awarded IMF Award and Jagdish Nanavati Award for Excellence in Mountaineering. The 200 meter made on the 2016 exploratory expedition won the Best Mountaineering Film at the Himalayan Film Festival 2017 and also won Sierra Nevada Award for the Best Foreign Film at the Mountain Film Festival. He is none other than Mr. Divyesh Muni. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Divyesh Muni. Sir, good evening, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind words.
Let me say, sir, one thing. We are really very privileged to have you today, and this year we are celebrating 50th year of our organization, the Institute of Exploration, and this is the second lap of our Facebook Live. And what a way to start! We are expecting you since our 50th Facebook Live, but better than it's better than late than never. It's happened. This is the second time. It will be blockbuster for us because we are having you today as our guest. So all stage is yours. So I'm going backstage. If you need any assistant with me, you can just call me and I will be there, sir. So it's all yours, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I do hope that I can meet up to the expectations that you have set for me. A hearty congratulations on the Golden Jubilee of the organization. And I really like the name of the organization, Institute of Exploration, because that is what I am passionate about, exploration. Coming right to the point, let us begin with the story of our expedition of 2013. The title of my talk is Into the Unknown. As we go along in the story, you will realize why I have titled this as Into the Unknown. The whole idea was to explore the Sasar Kangri range and attempt the plateau peak and hopefully some other peaks in the area. That was the original intention of our expedition. This was a joint expedition, Indian-British exploration expedition, and we found this to be an apt logo that was finalized by Vinita Muni, who's an artist, and my climbing partner as well as my life partner. Coming to the Sasar Kangri group, this is a satellite image of the entire Sasar Kangri group. Now, this is a fantastic group of peaks above 7,000 meters. There are actually 6 peaks. I have named labeled 5 of them. Sasar Kangri 1 is of course the most famous and highest of the peak. To the south of that you see Plateau Peak, which remained unclimbed till 2013 when it saw 2 ascents within the same season, and we were incidentally there when these ascents took place. You have Sasar Kangri 2, again which eluded a climb for many years till finally the American expedition led by Mark Ritchie climbed this peak in a really beautiful style. You have Sasar Kangri 3. Sasar Kangri 3 has got twin summits, which have been, out of which one has been climbed, one is still remain unclimbed. And a little northwest of Sasar Kangri 1 is Cloud Peak, as they call, which is also a 7,000 meter peak, which has been climbed several times from the Pukpoche glacier coming from the west. Now, in all this, one peak remained and that is the peak which we call Chamshen. As I go on the story, I'll tell you, this was originally marked as a peak called Tugmo Zurpo, Tugmo Zarpo, on the IMF list of unclimbed peaks. And it was in fact marked as less than 7,000 meters. It is only when we saw the updated maps that we realized that this is more than 7,000 meters. As I said, our original intention was to climb this peak, Plateau Peak. Now, Plateau Peak is a little above 7,100 meters. And as the name suggests, this is a huge plateau of snow which caps the entire peak. And several expeditions had attempted to climb this peak from different directions. But the cap or the snow cap on top is very dangerous because of the continuous avalanches which come down from it. In the year 2009, along with that was an Indian-American joint expedition. We had attempted Plateau Peak from the eastern side, and unfortunately, because of storm conditions, we could not go ahead with that climb. We came back again for this joint expedition in 2013, hoping to climb this ridge which you see coming from the south, the sharp ridge that is coming from the south. Let me just mark it. So we had hoped to climb up this ridge, and this is the actual summit of Plateau Peak. You will wonder how this image has come into. It is published in the world's 100 best peaks. Japanese climber has taken these aerial pictures and he has published a book. And I managed to get hold of this image thanks to a friend. So the Saser Kangri group has been a fascinating group of peaks since many, many years. This is a map drawn in by the Jimmy Roberts expedition in 1946. It is published in the Himalayan Journal 14. This rough map that was created, which is amazing for that time to have made this kind of a map. It shows the various approaches to the Saser Kangri group. This map is a sketch created in a report written by Captain Kohli when published in the Himalayan Journal 42. And it was an Indian-Japanese joint expedition. They were supposed to climb Saser Kangri 2, but they ended up climbing a subsidiary peak called Sakang, 6,720 meters. Now, they did an exploration along the Sakang Lungpa over here, and they went to the Sakang Col, and from the Sakang Col, they climbed Sakang Peak. They could not reach the summit of Saser Kangri 2. Incidentally, Saser Kangri 2 was finally climbed from the South Shukpa Kunsang Glacier along this marked route which I am showing you. The reason why I am showing this is that Sakang Col became important to our expedition this year also. We had reached the Sakang Col in 2009 when we hoped to climb Plateau Peak by climbing up to this ridge line and then attempting Plateau Peak from the eastern side. We reached about 6,600 meters on this altitude before the storm hit us and we had to retreat. So with these objectives in mind, we were off to Leh. As usual, the flight to Leh is wonderful with fantastic views of the mountains all along. This is the team that is in Kanglachen Hotel in Leh, spending time acclimatizing, discussing. Many of us met for the first time, so it's always good to get to know each other, whatever little bit possible in those few days. I'll introduce our team members. This is Victor Saunders. He is the co-leader of the expedition along with me. Very senior to me, and I learned a lot from him. He's considered one of the top climbers in the world. He had he has about 70 plus international expeditions to his credit. He's a mountain guide, and in the 9 years that he was guiding on Everest, he summited Everest 6 times. Amazing personality, amazing skills in climbing, and amazing fitness. This is Susan Jensen. She's a Scottish climber, one of the leading women climbers from Scotland, and incidentally also helps the Scottish Mountaineering Council in publishing their guidebooks. This is a very unique personality, Andy Parkin. He is also considered as one of the leading alpinists in the world. Many solo ascents to his credit, extremely difficult routes to his credit. In 1984, on a rock climb, he had a massive fall and virtually broke majority of the bones in his body, I would say. The doctor said that he will never walk again. This was way back in 1984. Not only did he get up and start walking, but he has done some amazing climbing after that also. He's also an artist, one of the amazing artists and sculptors. And his films, mountaineering films, have got several awards. This is my climbing partner, my better half, Vinita Muni. She has, we spent now nearly 40 years together climbing in different parts of the Himalaya and the local hills around here. She has, to her credit, the traverse of the entire Himalaya. In 1997, she, along with the team of women, trekked from Arunachal to Karakoram Pass in a continuous span of over 7 months, covering 4,500 kilometers of trekking. And I think, if I mistake not, 39 high altitude passes above 10,000 feet. So apart from that, she also has got to her credit more than a dozen first ascents and even more summits, Himalayan summits, to her credit. So perfect companion and climbing partner for me. She is an artist by profession and photographer, as well as she publishes calendars based on our mountaineering and Himalayan themes. So this being a very major expedition, we took a lot of time in checking all our equipment, ensuring that everything is prim and proper, because we knew that we are going to be really pushing ourselves to our limit, and the equipment is really important to see that it's prim and proper. So this is the Remo Expeditions facility in Leh. Remo, I'll tell you a little more about Remo Expedition later. But here we are in their compound checking our tents. Our chief cook, Chetuk, is checking all the rations. As they rightly said, that the army runs on its stomach, and he did a brilliant job of keeping us well fed till the time we were under his care. We also spent a day trekking up towards Digarla from Leh. That was an acclimatization walk before we set off towards the mountains actually. So having acclimatized and checked all our equipment, rations, etc., here we are getting a send-off from Motup. This is Motup Chewang and Yangdu, his wife. They are both the co-owners of Remo Expeditions. They have been awarded the best adventure tour operators 3 years in a row by the president, and they do a wonderful job of supporting the expedition. He's a very dear friend. He's also my co-vice president in the Himalayan Club. Now he is the president of the Himalayan Club currently. On the right, you see a liaison officer. His Rajkumar, his name. Now we decided to cross into Nubra Valley through the Varila Pass. As you see, this is in sharp stark contrast to what you would see if you were going over the Khardungla. It's very beautiful, lovely flowers, etc. You could spend some time on the Varila. Altitude-wise, it is just a little lower than the Khardungla, but it's a more enjoyable experience to get into Nubra over the Varila rather than the Khardungla. So here we are in the Nubra Valley at the starting point of our approach trek, and this approach trek is one of the most difficult treks that is there in this valley to take you into the mountains. Now I have been for at least about 15 trips in the Nubra Valley, and I still rate that this trek is the most difficult and taxing of all these treks because of the nature of the terrain. Getting all our equipment and rations from this point to base camp is a really logistics nightmare, and the Remo team did a wonderful job. I mean, we really didn't have to worry about how and whether our equipment will reach or our rations will reach. They did a fantastic job of it. Having ensured that everything is prim and proper, we decided to focus on the mountain. We decided to spend the evening in the Samstaling monastery in Nubra Valley. It's a very beautiful monastery. Lovely Thangka paintings. What happens on an expedition is that you are so preoccupied in your mind with the travel arrangement, logistics, seeing whether you have got your food, equipment, everything in order, is that sometimes you lose focus of the actual climbing ahead of you. So this is a very good point of time in which we could look into ourselves, decide to focus on what we are doing now that everything else has been sorted out. Weather was fortunately on our side. The Nubra Valley had clear weather. These are the last minute checks on all our photography and filming equipment that is happening. And next day we were off for the trek. Now, typical terrain of the Eastern Karakoram treks is on the very first day itself. You start at about 3,300 meters and you climb up straight a sheer 700 to sometimes 900 meters. In this case, we had to go up 700 meters along a steep winding path like this. And then you drop down on the other side by about 200 meters in order to get onto the valley. So this is the Nubra Valley, and we had just come up and onto the path, and we have started the traverse. This is what the valley looks like. From right to left is I'm taking the pointer across to the route. That's a steep terrain with a lot of loose rocks, boulders, a very narrow path at some points of time, and sheer drop on one side. As you can see, you cannot afford to lose your concentration while walking along this route. Far behind is the Nubra Valley, and we climbed up to this point and then started traversing all along the sides of the mountain. On the entire first day's approach march, there is no water except for this one nala which comes down from the side of the mountain. This is the only one location where you can find any water to drink. So you have to be well stocked on your water. It takes you the entire day. If you start early morning by about 5 o'clock, your trek, then by late afternoon you reach the intermediary camp. So here we are. We came out of the deep valley and into the open. The goats are sure-footed, but even here sometimes you find them to have missed their step. Finally, after 2 days, we were at base camp. We left the work of moving of loads to the remote team, and we settled ourselves into base camp. We had a lot of work to be done. We had to acclimatize to this altitude. Base camp is at nearly 5,000 meters, 4,900 odd meters is where base camp is. We had the traditional puja to seek the blessings for a safe expedition. The entire team is involved, all our Sherpas, the entire staff. And we set sight on our mountain plateau peak. So, just as we were settling into the camp and looking at the route ahead, which goes over this jumble and mumble of moraine coming down the glacier, we saw that there was another team about a kilometer camped away from us. And this was the Ladakh Scouts team who were there to attempt Plateau Peak. Now, we didn't know about this till the time we actually got there. And we didn't know what was their objective, but we found out from them that they were attempting Plateau Peak. And to our utter dismay, they were attempting the same route that we had planned to climb, and that is along this ridge line. Now, they had a 30-member strong team attempting the mountain from this route. And therefore, we had to take a decision as to what we were going to do. Surely it was not possible for two teams climbing in different styles to go on the same route, and that too with such a large group of climbers on the same route. Now, we decided to move ahead on the glacier and explore other possibilities and see what we could find, if we could find some other route in order to attempt the mountain. In 2009, we had gone along this glacier. We had climbed into this basin, and this is Sasir Kangri 3. We had attempted a route to climb up high on Sasir Kangri 3 over here, and we had reached this high point. We had hoped to come out from here and climb from behind and go on the left towards Plateau Peak. But that didn't seem to be a feasible route anymore. What we thought now is whether we could enter into this basin, which you see on the left, which I'm pointing out, and maybe find a route towards Plateau Peak from here. Here you are. So this is the Plateau Peak. This is the route that we had planned, but Ladakh Scouts were attempting this route. This is the route which we had attempted earlier. Now we were wondering whether we could find something from the basin. We went ahead along the medial moraine of the glacier and we set up a high camp, our advanced base camp. So advanced base camp is at a height of 5,500 meters approximately. Here is our advanced base camp site, and from here we would start exploring whether it was possible to climb Plateau Peak from any other route. Just behind advanced base camp is this peak that was named by Jimmy Roberts as Lookout Peak. They climbed this peak in 1946 in order to have a look at all the routes around, the peaks around, and to see if they could They were actually searching for a route to climb Sasir Kangri 1, the main peak, but they really couldn't find anything. Here is the time when we started preparing ourselves for the actual climb. The ropes were uncoiled to make them more manageable at a later stage. We had a glacier training session by Victor. He's a master at teaching everybody how to manage different situations. And we did a lot of practice on the glacier because it is good to be sure that every member of the team is aware of the rescue facilities, how do you rope up to check, because there are a lot of people not known to us on the team. And the artists were also at work. This is a painting by Andy, which he created sitting there at Advanced Base Camp. Vinita was also busy doing her sketches. And here she is hydrating herself. Now this is really important, and I always try to make a point on all my presentation, is the importance of hydration on any expedition. For those of you who wish to take up high mountaineering, you have to ensure adequate hydration at all points of time. So here we are, we walked into the basin from Advanced Base Camp and we are looking at various routes. We really couldn't find anything after 2-3 days of searching. Then we decided that let us switch plans now. Let us change the objective. Plateau Peak didn't seem to be possible from any of these other routes. So we thought, let us concentrate and find a route which would cross this high ridgeline, which I'm pointing out. This ridgeline is on an average of 6,000 meters. I'm pointing out now to a little gap which we had reached in 2009 also in order to explore a route up the mountain. This is 6,100 odd meters. We had called it Sakang Call. What we plan to do is this green line over here. This is where we were. This is the Sakang Lumpa. This is the high call. Plateau Peak on that side. This is Sasir Kangri 3. What we plan to do is to try and cross over this high ridge line, get down on the other side and go on to the North Shukka Kunsang Glacier, turn the mountain around and find a route up either to this peak over here or go up this ice fall and attempt Plateau Peak from here or Sasir Kangri 3 or whatever we could actually find possible in the process. So the attempt was to first find a path or route across the Sakang Call. So we set up camp on this lovely camping spot below the Sakang Call. Here looking at the Sakang Call, we went up this route over here. You will see 2-3 figures over here making their way up to the cone. Here you are. These are the climbers making their way up to the Sakang Call. This is cresting out onto the Sakang Call. And this is where we reach the ridge line. Now when we came here, this is the view we got. What you see behind is the Sakang Peak, which was climbed by the Indian-Japanese expedition led by Captain Kohli. And behind is the ridgeline coming from Sasir Kangri 2. Now we had to find a way to go from this ridgeline down this side. So when we look down the other side, this is the view which we got. This is the sight that we saw. And it was really frightening. We really didn't know whether we could go down this side because you'd have to go down 500 meters down this route. So we were prepared to do a little recce down the side. And this is Victor rappelling off the call in order to search for a route down. Here we are looking eagerly and trying to see what is feasible, what are the risks involved. Belaying each other down the route. So Victor, myself and Samgyal Sherpa, three of us went down about 100 meters to try and find a possible route. And that's Victor fixing an anchor. Here we are moving further along that route. So we came up back onto the ridgeline and we had a long discussion about what we saw over there. The entire team was there, the Sherpas, they had brought a lot of equipment, and here we are discussing what is the feasibility of doing this route. What we saw is that that route was not possible. There was too much risk of rockfall coming in from the Saser Kangri 3, and therefore the risk was beyond acceptable limits. We didn't know now what is the possibility to do. So 2-3 of us went along further on the other side of the ridgeline in order to spot a route if we could find from any other point. The evening was spent back in camp. So I'm pointing out to the route which we had explored in the first attempt. This is the route that took us to the col. When we went up a high ridgeline and we were trying to look at the routes, we saw two possibilities. One is the central route and one is the other route that came up to here. So we divided ourselves into two teams, and Suzanne and Andy went up the right extreme route to try and find out whether it's feasible. They ended up over here and they realized that this route is not feasible. But Victor, myself, and one or two of the Sherpas, we went up along this route and we found it was pretty decent. It was not too over technical and we could reach this col over here. So that is Suzanne climbing up along the route for her exploratory climb. That is her high up on the route. They could reach up to this point and they had to turn back. So this is the charm of any exploratory mountaineering venture. You really don't know where you're going to be able to find a route from. And you have to keep trying till you finally get a break. And that's exactly what we did. This is the break we got. The central route reached up to this point and we could see that there is a feasible way to go down from here, end up over here and hit the bottom somewhere. So the five of us very happy with the day's exploration, back in camp and planning now to actually move from there. So that's Vinita busy with the Sherpas in sorting out loads, rations, ensuring that we had enough supply of rations for 14 days. We plan to move across the col and stay on the other side for 14 days in order to do whatever climbing is possible from there. This is all the equipment being packed up. We had nearly 1,500 meters of rope with us. And of course, a lot of fun and games happening over here. This is Karma, and he was very fond of making these little figurines with the snow and ice. So back to our location, we had found a route which would bring us up to this col. We had to get down from here, traverse the entire Saser Kangri 3 massif and set up a camp over here. So that evening was a very beautiful evening, lovely colors in the sky. This looks beautiful, but it gives a, I mean, it is also ominous because it indicates the onset of bad weather. This halo around the sun is what I'm referring to. So early morning we set off to get across the col. That's the whole lot of us. There were 6 Sherpas, the 3 British climbers, and Vinita and myself. This is Victor rappelling off down the other side. It was very steep. It was a very steep rappel, and with full loads, it really becomes precarious. The first 50 meters was vertical, and then it was approximately 60 degrees after that. So I was waiting for Vinita to join me at this point of time, and while I was waiting, there was a huge explosion noise that we heard, and what we saw was a rockfall happening just above us. So it's really not much we could do except for pray and move to the side as much as possible. Since the sun was hitting the gully, there was a melt and many of the rocks started coming down. We had not anticipated that it would be so large a rockfall that would happen. Fortunately, none of us got injured. Slowly making our way further down. It's a really long way down that you have to come till you hit this rock line. So you're maximum exposed when you're crossing this section. The Sherpas did a wonderful job of bringing all the loads down. In fact, a very unique thing that they did was to have a pulley system in which they set up a zip line, they put the loads on the zip line, and they actually let it down all the way. Here we are down, making our way down the rock sections. So we came down about 500 meters from the col in order to hit the glacier below. And what you see behind is the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier. And we had to make our way to the junction in order to camp for the night. There we are. That's a close-up view of the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier. After descending from the col, we sort of gathered ourselves, sorted our loads, put it on our backs, and here we are making our way to the intermediary camp. It was quite late in the evening by the time we could reach the camp. Then early next morning we continued along the glacier. So we got down from the col, hit the bottom, walked along this subsidiary glacier, came to the junction of the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier. We set up camp for the night over here, and then next day continued and set up base camp over here. So this is our base camp for the Chamshen Peak. The height of this was about 5,640 meters. Now, in all, we had gone to the 6,000 meter ridge line 7 times before we could actually find a way and come down over here. So, we made a little temple and beautiful sights around. This is Saser Kangri 1, which sort of looms over you. This is Saser Kangri 3, the twin summits of Saser Kangri 3. This is Saser Kangri 2. It has been climbed from the opposite side. So to just sum up what had happened is, this is the Nubra Valley, Tigur, and this is where we started the trek towards along the Sakang Lumpa Glacier. This is where we put up our base camp, advanced base camp. This is the camp below the pass. We crossed the col over here and we got down, had an intermediary camp, North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier, turned the mountain, and we set up the camp at the base of Chamshen Peak. So this is the Chamshen Peak, just above our campsite. And the next, we decided let us attempt Chamshen Peak, and also that will give us an idea of possible routes for Plateau Peak or any other climbing that we could do. Again, we split ourselves into two teams. The British climbers, they decided they would want to approach the mountain from the north, whereas Vinita and myself decided that we had spotted a possible route from the west. So Vinita and myself, along with some of the Sherpas, we went for a recce towards the west of Chamshen Peak. Maze of ice on the ice fall coming in. This is coming in from Sasir Kangri 1. It was a horrendous looking ice fall, and this was a possible route for us towards Plateau Peak or Sasir Kangri 1. We decided not to worry our heads too much about which route to take along this ice fall. We thought, let us climb one peak and then decide further what to do. Here we are finding, going through the twists and turns of the glacier to avoid the crevasses. We came to the base of this huge ice wall that we would have to climb in order to reach the west ridge of Chamshen Peak. So we would have to go up this ice wall, set up a camp over here, and then do a 1.5 kilometer traverse at 7,000 meters to climb the peak. Close up of the wall. This is looking towards the ice fall coming in from Sasir Kangri 3 and Sasir Kangri 1. In the meantime, the Britishers went towards the north. They found a good route towards the north. This is then camp below the north side of the Chamshen Peak. Doing reconnaissance is a really exciting experience, and that's the charm of an exploratory venture. You're really, the whole day you're intrigued as to what you will find and what you will discover, what route is possible, what are the difficulties. So it's not only a physical challenge, it's a mental challenge, and there's an excitement about what's going to be seen around the corner. So we grouped up back at camp, and we were exchanging notes, photographs between all of us, and deciding, okay, what is it that we would like to do. At this point of time, we decided that the British, 3-member British team would climb in alpine style from the north, whereas Vinita and myself and the Sherpas would climb from the west. So the Indians, we went up, stayed at a high camp for a day, hoping to go on further. Unfortunately, just when we settled down into the camp, the weather broke and we were hit by a large storm. It was a terrible storm, very heavy snowfall. And we quickly came back to the base camp. We decided to sit it out because there was no point in us sitting on a high camp in such terrible weather. So you can see the effects of the high snowfall. We met up with the British climbers also. Here we are trying to sort out our rations in order to check how much of ration is left now, because we want to lose days in this bad weather. Now looking at the weather conditions, the Britishers decided that they were going to go back up the Sakang Kol to stock up their rations and come back. Now, I didn't understand their logic of going back over such a dangerous route, but I mean, being who they are, the world's top mountaineers, they have their own way of thinking, their own style of doing things. So, and they take their own decisions. So they decided to go back up the Sakang Kol, replenish their loads, and maybe come down here or maybe climb something else if they are not able to come back. So we bid goodbye to them and decided to continue on our route to climb Chamshen from the west. But the weather did not improve. This was 14th of August and the weather was really terrible. Since morning, there was no visibility at all. And what frightened me most and the entire team was what you see here is an avalanche that is coming down from the face of Saser Kangri 2. Now, Saser Kangri 2 is more than 7,300 meters, and an avalanche coming down this sheer face would generate so much of energy. It is unbelievable, the kind of explosion that would take place every time the avalanche would hit the bottom. And unfortunately, what we feared most is exactly what happened. The British team were camped on their way back at the exact same spot where we had camped when we were coming down. And at night, 10 o'clock, an avalanche came down from the face of Saser Kangri 2. They did not, and it created a huge blast of wind which hit the team that was camping over there. It ripped the tents from their anchors, and the tents were thrown nearly 20 feet into the air. Now they were all staying in different tents. Victor and Suzanne were in one tent, and Andy was in the other tent. Victor and Suzanne also were thrown up. They landed. They were really shaken up. But unfortunately, Andy, when he came down, his tent, he along with his tent, fell into this crevasse. And, he hit the sides of the crevasse and he landed nearly about 20-30 feet into this crevasse. Now, this was at 10:30 at night. And Victor Saunders was all shaken up. Suzanne was shaken up. They suddenly realized that they couldn't see Andy anymore. They started looking around for him. Fortunately, they heard a whistle, and Andy had a whistle attached to his jacket. So he started blowing this whistle, and that is what Victor heard. And when he heard this, he started searching, and they found him inside this crevasse. Now, it's easy for us to, when we do our mountaineering courses, to look at how you pull somebody out of a crevasse using a Z pulley and C pulley, etc., etc. But on actual site, it is a very, very difficult thing to do. So it took all the experience of Victor, so many decades of experience as a mountain guide, and all the strength of his as well as Suzanne to pull Andy out of this crevasse. And when he came out, he was badly injured. He could hardly move. But they realized that they couldn't stay there for too long. They had to move. They couldn't have another avalanche come on them. So Andy actually crawled from there for 2 kilometers that night, slowly moving 1 inch by 1 inch, so that they could be away from the impact zone of the avalanche. And they spent the night at that spot where he could finally reach. Suzanne and Victor came back to our camp that evening of 14th, or rather 15th. The accident happened on the 14th night. On 15th, by evening, they landed at our camp. And we spent a night at the camp. And on 16th morning, all of us, the 6 Sherpas, Victor and myself, we all went in order to rescue Andy. So this is the condition which we found him in. He's a man who can bear tremendous pain. I'm actually amazed, because when we went there and he was talking and he was actually cracking jokes about what happened to them. So here he is talking to us. He was in tremendous pain and he could hardly move. Obviously, he had injured his back, but we really didn't know what was the reason for his pain. So we dragged him out of the tent and we fashioned a rescue, what do you call it? Stretcher for him. We tied him up and it took the strength of all of us together in turns, shifting to carry him back from there towards our camp. The snow is very soft and deep because of the heavy snowfall that had taken place. So it made it even more difficult to move. So here we are. We had to ensure that we don't slip off or we don't drop him into one of those glacial rivulets. And we would keep pausing for rest after every few meters. So we got back to camp by late evening along with Andy, and we had a real dilemma on hand. Now, Victor's hands were also affected, his fingers were affected, he had got effect of the cold injury on him. Now, we were in a very precarious position. This is the Eastern Karakoram belt. This is the Nubra Valley over here. This is the Saser Kangri group of peaks. We had gone up from here along the Sakang Lungpa, crossed this high ridge, gone down, and we were somewhere over here at the place where my pointer is. Now, if you see south of this pointer, there is a huge ridge line which cannot be crossed easily. In fact, we had taken so many days to find a way to cross over. From the north is the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier, which goes up to the Shoyak River over here. So if we have to get out from here, it's a 30-kilometer distance over the glacier, which is not possible considering that Andy was injured so badly. So we took a very hard decision of using a satellite phone and calling for an air rescue, because that was the only way we could save his life. Fortunately for us, we had very efficient Remo expedition with us. We had very close friends, Rajesh Gadgil, who and many friends who rallied around after they got our message to ensure that a rescue takes place. Now, to bring in a helicopter at this junction over here itself is a challenge, because the helicopter can't cross over such high ridges. They had to actually fly along the Shoyak River from here, get into the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier in order to reach us at this spot. And with this kind of a bad weather, it was really a big challenge. But hats off to the Indian Air Force pilots. They brought in 2 choppers, and they actually, on the 17th, by late afternoon, they were at our campsite and they put Andy into a helicopter and they flew off with him. The next few images are images that Andy has taken from the helicopter, showing the kind of terrain that is there in the Eastern Karakoram which they flew over. This below is the North Shukpa Kunsang Glacier which they were flying over. There was just no way to get across this on foot with an injured person. He was very fortunate to have such an amazing rescue by the Air Force. The glacier is totally broken up global warming and other reasons. They took 2 days to get him out from there. From the camp, they could not fly out in one shot to Leh. So they flew along the valley. They flew along the Shoyak Valley. This is the Shoyak Valley over here. They flew along this Shoyak Valley. And they came, this is the Pangong Lake. They brought him to an intermediary camp at Tangse. They took care of him for one night at Tangse. Flew off from Tangse. And finally he was in a hospital bed in Leh. And of course they took fantastic care of him. He was diagnosed with a fracture of the sacral bone, that is the lower back. And it is amazing the kind of grit he had to bear that pain, crawl those 2 kilometers away from the avalanche zone and wait for the rescue, be handled or rather mishandled by all of us trying to carry him in different situations. Now that he was gone, we decided now to consolidate ourselves. Victor and Suzanne joined up with Vinita and myself, and we decided to climb, attempt Chamshen as a joint effort by all of us. So here we are repairing some of the broken equipment because of the avalanche. The tents had, really taken a beating. A lot of the other equipment was broken. So the weather cleared after that. We had to wait out for some time so that we don't have further incidences of avalanche. This is the phase of Saser Kangri 2 from which the avalanche came down. Now we see Chamshen in a better light. Our idea was to go up from here, go up this wall, and then climb the mountain from behind. Here the last rays of the sun hitting Saser Kangri 3. That is the main Saser Kangri peak with the lintel cloud on top. That was a moonlit night and it sort of changed our mood. We were all now in a exuberant mood, more positive mood and excited about what we are going to do next day. So early morning, we were all getting set. Morning rays on the mountains. This is Saser Kangri 1, Chamshen Peak. And we went up the glacier to the intermediary camp. That camp was at about 6,000 meters. The snow was really soft and we were struggling to move every inch with heavy loads. It's really amazing to have such high mountains and such rugged mountains all around us. Of course, our Karma Sherpa, even at 6,000 meters, was making his snow and ice figurines. So that evening now we were prepared to move towards the summit camp. Early morning in Saser Kangri 3 in beautiful light. You see the North Shupa Kunchang Glacier in the far distance. And we moved ahead from camp to go over the ice wall. So this was the challenge of the ice wall. We had to find a safe route from here. You can see little dots over here of the climbers. Here they are. So the wall itself is nearly 400 meters. That's Susanna and Victor moving up. This is Vinita and one of the Sherpas behind me. And we are inching our way up. The start of the steeper sections of the climb. And many sections were really vertical, and altitude was pulling us down. And we had several, crevasses coming up in between also. Here we are. So very carefully to make our way through those sections. And huge blocks of ice that we needed to avoid because we didn't know how stable these were going to be. And finally, by late afternoon, we could see that Sherpas had reached ahead of us, and the sign of the tent was so pleasing to us. And this is our campsite at 6,500 meters, with the entire North Shukpa Lumchang Glacier snaking towards the east. We settled into our tent and enjoyed the view around us. And this is what we had to do the next day. This is the summit, or what we thought as the summit of Chanshen Peak. And this entire ridgeline from here is about 1.5 kilometers, reaching up to 7,017 meters. So it was mostly between 6,800 to 7,000 meters is the average height of the ridgeline. That evening with the lovely moon, the late evening light. We started off early morning in order to gain maximum time for the summit, and we had to come back, and hopefully we thought that we'll move down also. The first rays of the sun touching and glowing the Chanshen Peak. We had to move along this ridgeline. Towards the summit. It looks pretty flat from here, but actually there are a lot of ups and downs all along the route. So here we are on the actual climb. This is what we found. We had several sections of steep climb. Then it would ease off in the middle. Again, there would be a steep section. Basically, we only roped up and climbed, belaying each other if there was any steep section. There we are, slowly moving up. This is somewhere where our campsite was, and this is the ice wall which we had climbed on the earlier day. There we are, moving up slowly. The climbers ahead of us. Since we weren't using fixed rope, people were moving at different paces. There were different teams of roped up climbers. This is Vinita and the Sherpa behind. So many parts we had to traverse the ice blocks, or rather huge gendarmes in the middle. and then climb up on the other side. Several steep sections. Till you crest out onto the last few hundred meters of the climb. And then you realize that it was a false summit. So you have to go this extra distance after that. Here you see Saser Kangri 1 coming up behind. The whole team making it from towards the summit. And there we are, a happy lot, the entire team, 2 Britishers, the 6 Sherpas, Vinita and myself. So the next few images are a panoramic shot from the summit of Chamshen. I'm going from left to right as I turn around. This is looking towards the north, towards the Saser La. As you go towards, I'm going to take images from west to east and then turn all the way around. There we are looking south towards Saser Kangri 2. This is Saser Kangri 3. This is the glacier and icefall between Saser Kangri 3 and Saser Kangri 1. And behind here in the cloud is the plateau peak. Going further towards the right, and we are back. So we got the entire panorama from the summit of the peak. A fantastic view now that the clouds could clear over Saser Kangri 2 and Saser Kangri 3. This is a huge face that avalanche had come down from. Close up of that face of Saser Kangri 2. For Vinita and myself, this was a dream come true. Both of us on the top of Chamshen, 7,017 meters, first ascent of a peak that we could manage to do together, which was an amazing memory for lifetime for all of us. Now, from the summit, we came down to the base camp. We had to get across the Sakang Col again. This also was a very difficult task because many of the ropes had got cut, and it took us several hours to climb up 500 meters back up to Sakang Col, come down on the other side. And when we reached our advanced base camp, this one person was waiting for us with, with very anxious look on his face. Our cook, Chetuk. He had not abandoned the camp, although they really didn't know what had happened to us. They only heard of the rescue that took place. They heard that helicopters had come in. He did not know who had got injured, whether anybody had got killed or no. And he was actually in tears when he saw us. And he was pretty relieved that all of us had come back. Waiting there for so many days, he actually made this temple and he prayed for our safety. And if you see this little piece of stone, he's a Lama. So he carved out this symbol. I'm not knowledgeable about what it is, but he carved this out and he put it in the temple to pray for our safety. And I think that was one of the most touching experiences for me to see what love and affection this simple man had for all of us. we got back from the expedition, and this is my last slide. But I need to tell you, the expedition ended at the district and sessions judge, Leh, because we were arrested for having used a satellite phone. We had to use the phone because without it, we would have lost Andy. And we also knew that this is going to cause us a lot of trouble. But luckily for us, the judge was very, very understanding. And she said that I know you all have done this to save the life of somebody. And therefore, she let us off with a very small penalty of 3,000 rupees. And of course, the satellite phone was confiscated because it was illegal to have a satellite phone at all. It really brings us to this thought as to what is the solution to this. In the long run, we really need to have some form of communication in order to save lives in the mountains. We took the risk. Of course, we pleaded guilty to the fact that we had used a satellite phone. And only thing was that we could, all of us, come back safely. So here's Victor and myself with big smiles on our face after completing an expedition and coming back, all of us. Thank you very much.
It's really very wonderful session, sir. There are a few questions viewer has asked. I'm trying to put those questions on screen. There is Mr.
Okay.
Abhijit Vasu. Can you see a question appearing on your screen, sir?
No, I'm not able to.
You just open the browser, so you will be able to see that, sir.
Okay, I will.
His first question is, what is the basic difference between the Karakoram Himalayas formation of ice and Kumayu ice formation, as per your experience? Can you put the question once again?
So I'm not very clear about what you mean by the ice formation, but the Karakoram Mountains are a very rugged, group of mountains. So the terrain is very harsh. Altitudes are high. Of course, Garhwal and Kumaon also have their own level of difficulty. So I find it hard to compare the two.
And there is another question from him also about Chitila West expedition and about Danu Dhuria also. Danu
Okay.
Dhura.
So it's a little off topic, but maybe I'll just give you a little.
He's very huge friend of yours, sir. So he already,
Okay.
studied so many things about you, and he prepared all the questions.
Okay, thank you so much. So Suchtila West, on that expedition, Vinita and myself had joined the Indian Navy team, and we were the official cameramen for that expedition. And the Indian Navy, that was a pre-Everest expedition. We did the second ascent of Suchtila West. I was fortunate to be on the summit also along with the Navy climbers, and I could film them reaching the summit and following them to the summit. So it was an amazing experience. Of course, there's a film about it, and it's there on YouTube now. You can have a look at that film also.
We will share that link if you send it to my WhatsApp,
Yes.
so I can share it to our all audience. Mr.
Okay.
Chirag Dhavalia. Mr. Chirag Dhavalia.
So incidentally, even our this expedition, we did manage to make a film, and that film is titled Into the Unknown. That is also on YouTube. It is on the Himalayan Club YouTube channel. So if you are interested to look at this entire story in the form of a film, it's about a 35-minute film, which is been made with the footages from all of us put together. So coming to Chirag's question, how many days it took from Leh to complete this expedition? So we landed in Leh on the 18th of July, and we were back in Leh. We summited on 21st of August, and by 29th of August we were back in Leh. Your
You
question is,
asked
where
last
is your
time
next
that next
expedition?
expedition.
Okay, so now with the current situation of the pandemic which we are in, I really don't know what we are going to do. This is the first year in a long time that we've skipped a visit to the Himalaya. Uh, but I am very hopeful that all this will settle down and next year we will be able to go and climb somewhere. Um, yes, definitely a trip to the Eastern Karakoram is in the offing.
And is the
Is
Sutila
Sutsila
experience
East?
still valid?
Yes, it is. Yes, as far as what I know, it is. It has not yet been planned.
What is your suggestion for the next gen explorer?
My suggestion is for the next gen explorer is to do a lot of reading, and the Himalayan Club has got a lot of information. You can look up the journals; they are all online. Look at or locate places which have not been explored. There are so many places where you can visit. Uh, Not necessarily everywhere you will find some technical peak or a high peak, but the whole charm of exploration is going and doing something new. That whole feeling of stepping into a place where nobody has been earlier, or nobody has written about it earlier, you don't know anything about that place, has got an enjoyment of its own. Thank you, Avijit, about Dhanudura.
Uh, how you look Sutila is from west. Is it very conical?
No, the reason why we could not go towards the east peak is because between the west and east is a very sharp ridge line, and it is very prone to avalanche, etc. So if you have to climb Suttila east, you really need to plan a different route itself on the mountain.
Okay. There are no any another question. So viewer, if you have any questions, so you can just pin us, so we can ask Divyesh sir to later he can answer your question. And sir, it's a very amazing presentation today, and I was just looking into it. And in next month we are going for a winter trek in Uttarakhand. So all preparation has been done, so very soon we will be in the mountain, and your
Oh, very
previous
nice! Congratulations. You're
because
really
your project.
fortunate.
Yeah, sir, we are trying to do because I mean today your presentation has motivated us to go again into the mountain. So it's a small trek, but we try to
Yes.
go in winter trek in snow region because we are really badly missing mountain and snow and all these things since last 1 year.
Yes, yes. I can totally understand. That is what we are all going through.
And something there has asked a question. It's the cost of this expedition.
Oh, uh, I'm sorry. It is many years ago, but I would say on an average per person cost went up to more than 4 lakhs each per
So
person.
which year it was held, sir? In which year?
This was in 2013.
2013. So compared to if 2013, if we try to do it in 2020, it would be around 7 to 8 lakhs. If
Per
we
person.
yeah, per person, if we include
No,
the
because
inflation and all this thing.
see, as you would have seen, it required tremendous support from the Sherpas. A lot of lower altitude support also was required because getting into the Sakang Valley itself is a very difficult trek, and getting loads across over there, it has to be on human back. There, you can't have pack animals taking anything inside that valley. So these are the factors that add to the cost of the expedition.
And Ladakh has always been a very expensive affair in the mountaineering because in 2016 we've been to Pologanka expedition, and it cost us 1.5 times more than another expedition in Himachal or Uttarakhand. So Ladakh has been always a expensive affair in mountaineering. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your
Thank,
today presentation. We enriched a lot, and we hope for another session with you in
thank
near
you so
future,
much.
definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you once
Thank you.
again, and
Yeah,
please
very
share
kind of you.
your video link to me so I can share it to my viewers and audience in our
Yes, I
channel.
will.
Okay.
I will. I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Thank you very much, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are ending our session of today Facebook Live. We will see you very soon in near future. Thank you very much. Stay safe, wear mask, and keep social distancing. Thank you very much.